I just want to say thank you very much to those who continue to do great work, whether it's through emergency food relief or supports. I know that we have the Multicultural Social Network that Mr. Hussein Baba has put together, and some amazing community people that are here this evening that I can see. You know who you are. Thank you very much for the great work that you do as well, and keeping in touch with our communities. And I know that up here at Helensvale, we have our Sikh community, the centre up there as well, who's been doing such fantastic work with our communities. That mock here, I sent through a video of them holding up 4,000, meaning they had served over 4,000 meals. I know our Gold Coast Islamic Mosque in Arundel has been doing some fantastic work. So I just want to acknowledge you guys and continue to do that great work, and we're all here to support each other. So we're just our first guest for this evening, to Mr. Slogrove, if you can share with us how things have been, and I'll hand over to you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Firstly, I would like to just acknowledge your hat that you're wearing. That is quality headgear. I really like that, and I just want to say everybody's heart game was strong. Was really strong. Is that a usual usual event of these groups?
Yes, we know that everyone is so busy and they want to come back into a not so normal meeting. So we try and get the feel and the vibe out there. So they played very well. They played very well. So.
Yes. So thank you very much for having me on. And look, I'd like to say these groups are very valuable in being able to share and come together and connect with various different community groups throughout our city. And one of the things that we've seen more recently is a lot of student groups. Now, I'm from Study Gold Coast, and for those of you who don't know, we're the peak industry body for the education sector here on the coast. And we have 70 member organisations, so 70 education and training providers throughout the city that form part of our network. And one of the things that we identified early on in the pandemic, that quite a number of students were presenting with challenges because of their part-time job losses, and also some of their support networks that they usually relied on just weren't available to them. So they were finding that, you know, some of their social activities that they were participating in, they couldn't participate in anymore. And it wasn't like they could take the time to go out and spend some time with their family, because their families were obviously not in the country. So one of the things we did in the original early days was reach out to our member organizations and say, how do we approach this? How do we go about this so that these students feel well supported and stay connected with their providers in the first instance, so that they don't fall off the educational journey that they were on. So if it's okay with you, I might share just some of the systematic approach that we've taken to support these students throughout this time. And what we did was we reached out to our 70 members and said, let's put some funding towards funding small projects throughout the city that would allow some food and grocery support, and all the way through to any type of support that the provider felt that their students needed at the time. So we saw some providers offer SIM cards, we saw some providers offer laptops, and we also funded roughly around 6,000 meals provided by the education providers. Now this is the key part. It was cooked in kitchens where people had been stood down from their jobs. So that kept people working in those kitchens. It kept about 300 apprentices working in their jobs, so it kept them connected with their employers, which was great. And then that fed through to the students via the providers, which was great. However, that had obviously a lifespan. Those 20 projects are now towards the end of their life cycle in terms of the funding that we submitted and supported those individual institutions with. And then we saw other community groups opening up to offer various different other parts of support, which would be frozen meals, groceries, and obviously counselling support for students that obviously couldn't get back home. So what we did was we partnered with Study Queensland, Study Brisbane, Fair Share, and Food Bank. And we came up with a system where students can book an appointment with one of our counsellors to talk to them. And if they're in financial hardship, there is a metric where they can access $1,500 through that process to keep them going with their bills and support them through that. However, there are many conversations that need to occur before they can access, or it's a bit of a gated process where they can access that $1,500. Then we worked with Study Brisbane to access frozen meals. So we've had access to about 6,000 frozen meals a week that will be distributed throughout various different locations, particularly providers that are sort of scattered throughout the coast. So we've got some going out of Griffith, we've got some out of our student hub in Nerang Street, Southport, we've got some out of Bond University, and we've got some out of Southern Cross University, and we've got some food being distributed out of some private providers like Imagine Education and Barrington College. So that's the frozen meals. And then we've got 200 grocery packs that are being delivered throughout our student hub. And we're just about to obviously support the Multicultural Social Network and a couple of other multicultural community groups throughout the coast to offer them access to those frozen meals, as well as the grocery packs that we're delivering. We do have a little bit of challenge in terms of just working out the logistics. As you can imagine, 200 grocery packs fills a room full of food, and distributing that can be a logistical nightmare. But we're going through the process of getting that up and running, and we're just coming into our second week, and things are going well of that second staged approach. I guess Study Brisbane came to the party and has offered us $40,000 in support for those projects. And look, I'm glad to see that the uptake has been strong. We have got a process of if you do come across any students, they can go on our website and they can actually register for one of those packs. And we've got a process that hopefully every student throughout the city that has registered will get a pack eventually. So although we don't have enough grocery packs or meals to support every single student in the city, the ones that need support will definitely get it if they keep in contact with us and go through the process of either sitting down with one of our counsellors and talking to them, because then they'll become a priority student that we support, or if they're just in need of some groceries and some packs, they can come along and register, or even just drop into our hub. It's been open since Monday this week, so we're back in business. We're back doing the good work of supporting students and helping students out. So I might park it there and see if we've got any questions, and we can talk through the logistics of that. But happy to help, or engage with you guys more often and share some of the work that we're doing in this space. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Alfred. We've put inside, you'll see the Zoom group chat as well, if you do have any questions for our speakers. I welcome Dr. Denise as well. Thank you for joining us. I want to acknowledge Debbie, who helped out with organising Alfred today. We did have Mohit, who was very busy due to the change of support and things. So I just want to acknowledge Mohit as well and the great work that they're doing, as well as online, as well with the Facebook Live page, which I've jumped into a few times as well. So thank you for that. Do you have any questions? If you'd like to ask a question, you just raise your hand and unmute yourself. Welcome to Kitty as well, Kitty, from our New Zealand Maori community here in Kumarapimpapa. Kia ora, good to see you.
No questions. I must have satisfied everybody's desire to hear about our student support. So yeah, look, if anyone does need any support or know of any students throughout the city, domestic or international students, we're happy to help them through our networks that we have as well. We have close connections to the state, and they're rolling out, I don't know if you would have seen it, but they're rolling out $10 million worth of support for students. And they're just standing up a platform to do that. So happy to connect with any of you and work with you to help those students out. And thank you to Debbie for inviting me to come along and update everybody.
We did have one question, Kev, about students, if many students have had to leave and go back home due to the current situation. Could you talk to that one a little bit, Alfred?
Yeah, so international students, it's an interesting scenario we're seeing play out in the international education space, where students have mixed views, like everybody at the moment. It's sort of a roller coaster of emotions, and some students feel like they are trapped here in Australia because they can't get back due to the flight restrictions and things like that. However, some students see it as a bit of a benefit to be here because we have managed it so tightly, and you know, on the Gold Coast, we've had minimal cases, you know, and in Queensland, we've managed it relatively well in terms of getting on top of it, where other locations around the world have really struggled to get on top of it from an early outset. So we've seen from an international student perspective, we have 18,000 registered visa holders. Now, we know that 5,000 of those are studying offshore or remotely. So we're left with about 12,500 students still on the coast, engaged with education providers continuing their studies. So that gives you an idea of how many have left and how many have stayed. We've retained the majority, and majority of those are in the higher education sector, so studying degrees or long-term programs, and we've got quite a good understanding and I guess log of who those students are, and we're communicating with them through our channels as regularly as we possibly can to keep them connected with the community. Debbie.
Hi.
Anybody else?
Got one question. Well, it's not a question. I was talking to a couple of Chinese students, and they feel a bit, because international students pay so much more than local students for their education, and they feel that they're not getting value for money at the moment or for the last few months. And they're just wondering, do they continue or don't they? So what can we do to tell them to say, no, hang in there and stick with it? Because we don't want to lose these students, obviously.
Yeah, great question. And there's another point I want to touch on the back of this question. But what I would say is to them, we've been working closely with the federal government, in particular, you know, Peter Dutton's office and a couple other federal ministers, to get online learning recognised as part of their post-study work rights visa. So I guess that's part of the real attraction of studying internationally is getting a global experience and expanding your opportunities and employability experience, and obviously learning the language, and there's so many other factors, but getting that 3-year post-study work rights recognised as part of your online learning is important, and we know that that is currently going through the process of being endorsed. So an announcement is imminent around that. So I would say to them that the providers have their sleeves rolled up, and they are ready to re-engage face-to-face at any stage allowable for them to do that. But I guess the quality of education here on the coast and in Queensland is second to none. So I would say that staying engaged with education is always a good thing, whether you're a domestic, international student, or anybody, you know, you either need to be earning or learning. So I would say hang in there. It's not going to be around forever. We're on top of it, and face-to-face delivery is just around the corner. And recognition of the work that they're doing online as part of their visa applications is inevitable. It's just a case of timing.
Thank you.
And the other thing, the other question I've been getting a lot lately is around racism. You know, we've seen some racism play out in various different locations around Australia and around the globe, you know, now that this is playing out. And I get this question all the time. And we're working closely with Austrade at the moment to roll out a campaign around people's second home. We want people to feel welcome no matter where they're from, no matter what nationality they are. So, you know, that's part of our strategy is to really embrace it. And we're going to be rolling out some content to showcase the diversity of the people that visit our student hub, whether it be virtually. You know, we have 500 people jump onto our social hangouts on a Friday afternoon with Mo and Joseph, just to hang out and just talk about student-related content. So we really want to showcase that, and we really want to make them feel welcome.
Thanks.
All right.
I've got one more question on the chat there from Teresa, just asking whether Study Gold Coast has access to translation services for those that need language assistance to engage with help. And thanks you for the social hangout initiative.
So yeah, absolutely. So we actually, we've partnered with MDA to run our counselling service, and they do have access to translators, as well as there's a hotline that Study Queensland manage on our behalf that students can access at any time. So it's a 24-hour hotline, and it's called Q Study, and they can dial that up, and there is translation services as part of that as well.
And last part to that question, is there anything for the under 18 high school students that might be local? Yeah,
absolutely. So circling back to all I said about those 20 projects, there was about 5 of those that were done for domestic high school students as well as international students. And any student can tap into our student hub. So we've got a mobile hub and we've got a physical site, which is in Southport. Our mobile hub goes out to the high schools and educates students on career pathways and does a bit of education around, you know, just general social activities and behaviour within the community, and globalisation. And there's a number of initiatives that mobile hub rolls out throughout the year. At the moment, we're just working on a virtual version of that to engage with students as they go back and they're dealing with this this crisis and pandemic.
Thank you, Alfred, for your time. Really appreciate that. I'm sure that we'll get your details, and if there's any more questions from the group or from the community organisations or services, we'll keep in touch. So thank you very much for that. We will